we're going to look at today's assignment. Today's assignment is to solve by factoring. And so we're going to look at two different types of problems. A problem that's written like this, where it's already been factored and set equal to 0, or something that we have to solve from beginning to end. That's going to help you with your assignment today. So let's take a look at that. We were at the bottom of page 19. You had the odds you were working on, but let's solve the problem that I have written there. That it's actually number 28. So number 28 says 8k plus 1 times k minus 7 equals 0. Well, this particular problem is going to use the zero product property. So let's think about what that means. Well, zero product means multiply property. So what happens when I multiply anything by 0? Well, 0 times 10 is 0, and negative 100 times 0 is 0, and alpha times 0 is 0. So anything times 0 is 0. So if we look at these two things, I have two chunks. There's one. And let's get another color going in here. Here's our other one. We have two things being multiplied together that gives me 0. So if that's the case, then that means one or the other has to be equal to 0. So we're going to take each of these pieces, 8k plus 1, and set it equal to 0, and k minus 7 and set it equal to 0. And so this is our orange, and this is our yellow. And now we're just going to solve each piece. So let's get rid of our 1. So 8k equals negative 1. So k is negative 1/8. Do the same with the yellow. So k is equal to 7. So my solution set would be negative 1/8 times 7. Now that is not a coordinate. Those are just two values that make this true. When I plug in 7, I'd have some number times 0, because 7 minus 7 is 0. And that works. And when I plug in negative 1/8, this would be 0 times something that gives me 0. So that's how you would handle a question like number 28. 27 is a little bit different. Not really. It just looks different. I have m times 6m plus 7 equals 0. Well, again, I have two things being multiplied together. I have the orange and I have the yellow. So I'm going to set each of those equal to 0. I have my m equals 0, or 6m plus 7 has to equal 0. And so when I solve, 6m equals negative 7, that is 6. So m is negative 7/6. So I have two solutions again, 0 and negative 7/6. And that would be the solution set. So that's how you do something that looks like that. Now, let's move on to questions that you're going to find on page 20, which is part of your assignment. And you're doing that whole process. You're factoring, and then you're setting equal to 0. So let's take a look at question number 50. So number 50 says 2n squared minus 13n equals 24. So step 1, since I have an x squared term and a linear term, so I have a quadratic and a linear term, I've got a bx term, and I have a constant, I'm going to have to factor. I can't just, since the bx term doesn't, I can't just solve and take the square root or anything like that. So the first thing I have to do is set it equal to 0. So that means I'm going to get rid of my 24. And so I have 2n squared minus 13n minus 24 equals 0. So that's my step 1. Now, looking at this, I'm going to GCF factor it. Now, do I have a GCF between those three terms? Not really. So I'm going to use the slide and divide method. You could factor it. However, if you can do your factors and you're pretty fast at that, that's fine. I'm going to show you slide and divide again. We're going to slide our 2. So I have n squared minus 13n minus 48 is 0. And then I'm going to factor that. 0 tells me signs are different. Factors of 48 would be 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8. And I need to be able to subtract the two numbers and end up with 13. So 3 and 16. It needs to be negative 13, so it would be minus 16. Now I slid my 2, so since I slid the 2, that is what I'm going to divide by. And so this doesn't work if it gives me fractions, so I'm going to slide it back in front. So I have 2n plus 3, and then I have n 8, and that's all equal to 0. Now I'm at the point that I can set each of those equal to 0. So I have 2n plus 3 is 0, n minus 8 is 0. Negative 8, negative 3, oops, so n is equal to negative 3 times. So my two solutions would be 8. If I plug those in at the top, then those should equal, that should give me 0. So pretty much that's your, we have set equal to 0, GCF factor, then we need to factor trinomial. Your options there would be slide and divide. And then 4, set each factor equal to 0, and solve. So these are the two places. If I were to graph this equation right here in my calculator, it would cross at 8 and negative 3/2. Those are my two solutions. So if you were to think about what that graph looks like, 8's out here, and negative 3/2 is about negative 1.5. And so my graph's going to look something like that, because I know that it's crossing, those are my solutions. So that gives you an idea of how you would work some of the problems on page 20.